Let's look at the enzymes involved with digestion. Let's look at them in order along the digestive tract. So we're going to start with the mouth. The mouth is going to secrete salivary amylase. The salivary amylase is going to help digest carbohydrates into monosaccharides. Okay. You also, in infants, there is a salivary lipase. Salivary lipase is going to digest lipids. Because 97% of the lipids that you eat are triglycerides, those are the ones we're going to focus on. Triglycerides are going to be digested into glycerol and 3 fatty acids. Okay. There is no enzyme that is secreted by the pharynx or the esophagus, so we're going to skip over that and we're going to go to the stomach. I didn't mean to move the sheet here. Sorry. Okay. The stomach is going to secrete pepsinogen. Pepsinogen is an inactive enzyme, but in the presence of hydrochloric acid, the pepsinogen is converted to pepsin, and pepsin is going to break down proteins into peptides. Okay, that is the only enzyme that is secreted by the stomach. However, there are other things secreted by the stomach, such as hydrochloric acid that we just mentioned. Hydrochloric acid is secreted. Intrinsic factor. Intrinsic factor is needed for the absorption of vitamin B12. And you might remember from our blood chapter, vitamin B12 is needed for the maturation of red blood cells, and not having vitamin B12 in the diet leads to pernicious anemia. Another secretion by the stomach is intrinsic factor. Well, not intrinsic factor, endorphins. Endorphins are natural opioids. Sorry, I can't talk and spell at the same time. Natural opiates. Opiates, I need that O there. And those are going to make you feel better whenever you eat. Another one is renin. Renin is going to be needed for, it's only in infants. And it's secreted so that it can digest casein, which is a certain protein in milk. And if a little baby spits up or something right after they drink milk, then it's going to look like curdled milk, and that's the reason why. It's because the renin has denatured the casein. Okay, so I'm going to erase all of the stuff about the stomach and the mouth here because we're going to go down to the small intestines here. And I don't know what happened to my eraser. Okay, there it is. Okay, so let's go down to, let's list the enzymes that are secreted for digestion by the small intestines. Okay, I'm going to write small intestines here, but the only part of the small intestines that is going to make digestive enzymes is the duodenum. The duodenum is going to make disaccharidases. Okay, disaccharidases is a family of enzymes that is going to digest disaccharides. Disaccharides into monosaccharides. And you may remember that monosaccharides are one sugar unit, and they are small enough to be absorbed across the intestinal lining. An example of a disaccharidase would be something like sucrase. Sucrase is going to digest sucrose, which is table sugar, into glucose and fructose. Okay, is there an enzyme that breaks down glucose and fructose? No, because they are already monosaccharides. They don't need to have any digestion take place. So there's no such thing as a fructase or glucase enzyme. Okay, so the first category of enzymes from the small intestines are disaccharidases. The second one is aminopeptidases. Aminopeptidases are going to digest peptides into amino acids. Okay, if you remember, there are 20 amino acids. So let's look at the amino acids joined together. We're going to say that number 2 is binding to number 4, which is binding to number 8, which is binding to number 10, which is binding to number Let's get an odd number here. Number 11 to binding number 3, binding to number 8, binding to number 4, binding to number 12. Okay, so there is a particular aminopeptidase that would break the bond between number 2 and number 4. There is another aminopeptidase that breaks the bond between number 4 and number 8. There's a third enzyme or a third aminopeptidase that breaks the bond between 8 and 10. So do you see how every time you have a different amino acid, it's going to be a different aminopeptidase breaking that bond? So that's why you have the family of aminopeptidases. Okay, the next enzyme is lipase. Lipase, if you look at the word lipase, hopefully it reminds you of lipid. So it kind of reminds you that it's going to digest lipids. So this is intestinal lipase. Intestinal lipase is going to make triglycerides, break down into glycerol, plus 3 fatty acid chains. Okay, and the last one that's secreted by the small intestines are nucleases. So you have intestinal nucleases. Okay, intestinal nucleases are going to take your nucleotides. Going to digest things into nucleotides. What is it going to digest into nucleotides? DNA and RNA. DNA and RNA are digested into nucleotides. So now nucleotides are small enough to be absorbed across the intestinal lining. Okay, next I'm going to kind of erase all of this because we want to look at what are the secretions of the pancreas. The pancreas is going to make digestive enzymes, which is going to make it an endocrine gland or an exocrine gland. Okay, it is an endocrine gland because it makes hormones, but when the pancreas is making your digestive enzymes, it puts them into the pancreatic duct, which is going to make the exocrine functions of the pancreas. So the pancreas is going to make digestive enzymes. What digestive enzymes are made by the pancreas? You have pancreatic amylase. Pancreatic amylase is going to do the same job as salivary amylase. You're going to be looking at the carbohydrates being digested into monosaccharides. Okay, you have trypsin and chymotrypsin. Trypsin and chymotrypsin are going to be needed to digest proteins into peptides. Okay, I know that pepsinogen was converted to pepsin in the stomach and it did the same job, but this is going to be the leftover proteins that haven't been digested, would be digested in the small intestines by trypsin and chymotrypsin. Carboxypeptidases. Okay, remember this is carboxy here. Most people look at this carboxy here and think of a carbohydrate, but your amino acids, if you remember that last carbon had a double bonded oxygen and OH group. This right here is called the carboxylic group. A carboxylic group. That would be in organic chemistry. But, and so right now for this class, if you don't know that, I want you to ignore that and go peptidases so that you know that carboxypeptidases are going to digest peptides into amino acids. Okay, then you have pancreatic nucleases. Pancreatic nucleases are going to digest DNA and RNA into nucleotides. I didn't say it earlier, but what are the nucleotides? Remember where A binds to T, G binds to C, and U takes the place of T, uracil? Okay, so you have guanine, cytosine, adenine, thymine, and uracil. So those are your nucleotides. That would be the result of digestion of DNA and RNA. The last one, I'm fixing to run out of time. You have the pancreatic lipases. Pancreatic lipases do the same thing. You have triglycerides that are going to be digested into glycerol and 3 fatty acids.